Hi, I'm Wayde Kirvida from CustomFIRE, and behind me today is a new pumper we just completed for the Cambridge Fire Department in Cambridge, Minnesota. This truck is built on a tandem axle, 4-door Freightliner FL112 chassis. It features seating for 5 inside. It carries a 1,700 gallon poly tank along with a 20-gallon foam cell. At the rear of the truck is a Waterous full-bodied 1500 GPM single-stage fire pump. This truck measures 37 feet long, 11 feet tall, and weighs 49,000 pounds with water. The extended front bumper accommodates a hose well for 200 feet of 1 3/4 fire hose. However, plumbed to the front bumper is a 2.5 inch discharge. That allows them to run 2.5 inch hose off the front or provide a gated Y for 2 hand lines. And then obviously mounted on top of the apron is a Federal Signal Q siren. The engineers and fabricators at CustomFIRE did a beautiful job on the 4-door cab step arrangement. We have a laser cut access panel to provide access to the batteries, also access for DEF and fuel. On this side it's just the step assembly, and as you'll see on the other side we hit a hose rail under the crew seats. This pumper body is what we call a 4-segment body, obviously because we have 4 compartment doors on each side, and you can probably tell that they are full depth. This does have a 1,700 gallon tank, as I said. However, it's a long tandem body which offers the full depth compartments. And in the forward portion we have 4 pull-out tool boards already with some equipment mounted on those. Ahead of those we have a slot for a little giant ladder, and then above the 2 tandems we have swing out tool boards. So it's a double panel design offering mounting on both sides and then a raised panel on the back wall. And within these compartments we have power strips because this truck has an onboard hydraulic generator and a transfer switch, so you have power from shore or generator. And as you've no doubt noticed, we have a lot of storage in the wheel well assembly as well. 3 air bottles, fore and aft, and then a couple wheel chocks, and a little bit of bonus storage below those between the tandems. And finally, in the rear we have the driver's side panel of that rear mounted fire pump. It looks very much like a Midship fire pump panel without the controls, of course. We have a 6-inch gated intake, a 5-inch reduced to 2.5 inch discharge. Then we have 4 poly trays that are color coded in this case for pre-connects. Each tray carries 200 feet of hose and a nozzle. The 2 forward trays each carry 200 feet of 2.5, and the 2 rear trays, the red and yellow ones, carry 200 feet of 1 3/4 on each. And then of course above we have a couple adjustable shelves. And then a nice feature in this body is that we have a fairly large removable panel, so that'll be nice when the time comes for inspecting the pump and the mechanicals and any sort of service or maintenance over the life of the apparatus. And then finally, while I'm still on this side of the truck, I'll just point out that this is a stainless steel body, and up above you'll see that we have Whelen M6 warning lights and Whelen Pioneer dual pane scene lights. Alright, so a theme of these walk-arounds, I always talk about how the back of the truck really informs the overall functionality and design, and that's obviously going on here as well. The fire pump, as I mentioned, is mounted at the rear of this truck. We have a nice access ladder to the top of the body where you'll find a step-in area for a manually operated high-riser deck gun. The hose bed is obviously down the center of the body, and this truck has an L-shaped tank, so it's taller ahead of the hose bed. And up there is where you'll see the hydraulic generator. And then on the opposite side of the body we have our center arm hydraulic ladder rack. With the door up you can see a very nicely laid out pump panel. We have up and down swing lever style discharge controls. We have several priming buttons for the pre-primes. This truck has 3 primary intakes and each one of them has a dedicated pre-primer. Up above you have your compound gauges, pressure governor, tank level gauges, foam control unit, and then the communications radio. And then just down below at the bottom threshold we have a little bit of surface where we're able to mount some adapters and wrenches. And then finally in the rear opposite side corner of the body we have a 6-inch rear intake. I mentioned at the beginning that this has a rear mounted Waterous full-bodied 1500 GPM fire pump. The model unit of that is a CSU. It's the fire pump typically associated with midship applications. However, at CustomFIRE, we've been placing midship fire pumps at the rear of the truck for over 30 years now, and it works really well. It's very quiet because of the cast design, not relying on fabricated manifolds for the intake and discharges, which can generally carry more harmonics and resonance. So this truck is just extremely quiet to operate. You have the engine at the opposite end, about 37 feet away from you, and the fire pump driven to the rear of the body through a drive shaft that runs under the poly tank and then drops down at the split shaft PTO behind the chassis, and then forward again to the automatic transmission. This truck is a horizontally split unit, so it lends itself to easy repair and maintenance over the life of the apparatus. It has dedicated inlets cast in for each intake. You have the passenger side, driver side, and rear 6-inch intakes, and then you also have a 3.5-inch tank to pump. So the 3.5-inch tank to pump is larger than what you typically see a 3-inch with most manufacturers. We always do a 3.5 because it adds about 50% more flow out of the tank. All right, this truck also has an enormous amount of storage on the officer side. Within the wheel well, we have a pull-out oil dry bin. In the center, we have storage for 3 air bottles, and then in the rear portion, we have storage for 2 fire extinguishers. The rear passenger side compartment contains plumbing for the rear 6-inch intake, a passenger side intake, a large diameter discharge, and then up above a shelf with a little bit of storage space and a Hanny reel with 150 feet of 10-4 cable and a junction box. You can probably make out that there is a ladder rack on this side. It's built in flush to the side of the body with like a parade panel, we call it. And then we've built out the body front and rear of that for mounting surfaces for scene lighting and warning lights. Over the rear wheels, pretty typical affair, deep compartments, adjustable shelf. And then ahead of the rear wheels, we have a couple rollout trays with a tool board for their air packs, as they elected not to carry air packs in the cab of this truck. They have vinyl seating and rubber floors for easy clean out, and they're going to put their air packs in the front officer side compartment. And then finally, on the officer side below the crew seats, we've hidden a Hanny reel with 100 feet of 1-inch booster hose and then an Elkhart pistol grip nozzle. All of us at CustomFIRE appreciate the time you take to watch these videos. This truck is pretty cool, very unique, exactly what we've been building for over 40 years. If you're in the market for a new pumper, tanker, or rescue apparatus, we'd love to hear from you. I'm Wayde Kirvida from CustomFIRE. Thanks for watching. We're working here.
I want to be on TV too.
Okay. Stainless steel rear-mounted fire pump with within the wheel wells. You see we have a pull out. So the and then it has cast-in intakes for yep, slow down. Just drive by as slow as you can. Thank you. I'm just gonna keep talking until that plane flies away. Hi, I'm Wayde Kirvida from CustomFIRE. Oops. All right, let this guy go by.
Yep.
It's been a while, a little rusty. I think I'll just take it from the top.